these empty ones to kind of make sure we're not over our limit. Yeah, see? No, he's going to have purpose.
This is the special meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission.
Ed, you got to talk into the mic, honey. I can't hear you. I'm
Special
picking you
meeting
up.
of the Danbury Planning Commission. The continuation of public hearing, MSW Associates, LLC, application for special exception to allow transfer station and volume reduction plans in the IG-80 zone, 16 Plumkeys Road, number L13144, SC number 664. This application has received DIC approval. Public hearing was open on 12/19 and we're ready to go. Now, before we...
Maybe we could ask everyone to turn their cell phones off, too.
Yes, please turn all your cell phones off and be patient with us and you'll get a chance to speak. First of all, I want to take the roll call of the Planning Commission. Ed Manuel is here, obviously. Joel, you're right here. John Week, not here. Ken Keller, not here. Arnie Finaldi's not here. Paul Lasker's not here. And then Phil Seminara and Helen Hofstadter.
Here.
Now, Phil, would you sit in for John Week? And Helen, would you sit in for Ken Keller? Yes, Mr. O'Connor.
Just for the record, Mr. Palmer, he has recused himself in this application.
We can't hear you. You have to talk into the mic.
Just for the record, Commissioner Finelli has recused himself from this application because of potential conflict of interest. So he's not absent for lack of interest.
Now, do we have anything that we would like to introduce before I ask the applicant of our opposition? Do we have something here that has been submitted to Jennifer that you would like to refer to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We received 2 emails, correspondence from 2 commission members, one from Commission Member Jill Urice dated January 24th, and 1 email correspondence from Ken Keller dated January 30th today. I will read Joel's email into the record. Hi Jennifer, I assume we will be closing the public hearing on Wednesday, so I have a few queries or food for thought items. Number 1, has an updated report post 11/26 been received from engineering? If so, and if that is available in electronic format, would you kindly forward a copy to me? Number 2, is there a space to store all the refuse on site for a 24-hour period as required? That would be the equivalent of at least 13 40-ton consolidation trailers, 4 in the outbound bays, 3 or 4 in the staging area, and 5+ elsewhere. Number 3, during Abdul's review or elsewhere, was consideration given to the following scenario. Given the anticipated traffic volume, it seems there will be a hauler trip averaging every 5 minutes or so throughout the day, and a consolidation tractor/trailer trip averaging every 20 minutes or so, parentheses, peak times more often and off-peak less frequently, end quote. A, if a delivery vehicle of the largest size anticipated were in process of backing up to either the first or last inbound bay, and it were to have a mechanical failure disabling it from moving under its own power, would there be sufficient lane space for all other inbound and outbound trucks and tractor trailers to circulate in a normal course of business? If yes, what would be the impact on inbound queues with reduced plant capacity of disabled block bay? If no, how and where would the disabled truck be moved, and how long would it take to remove the disabled vehicle? What would be the impact on inbound and outbound hauler queues, and where would the applicant plan on staging the inbound vehicles? Inbound, parentheses, inbound drive can accommodate up about 4 or 5 haulers, as I recall, and fewer consolidation tractor trailers, end quote. B, same scenario, questions, but for a disabled consolidation tractor trailer outside of a bay on the outbound side of the building. Or should I just ask questions 2 and 3 Wednesday? Thanks, Joel. That's the first email received again January 24th. The second email, and these are in the record. The second email was received from Ken Keller this afternoon. Hi all, sorry I will not be able to make the public hearing this evening. Thank you to whomever will be chairing. I did have a chance to review Abdul's traffic report as it is posted online at the News Times website. Following our Abdul summary and conclusions, I would hope that the Commission would call the applicant on all of these and ask them as to how they are going to address Abdul's concerns. It is clear from the report that Abdul concludes that the benefits of this proposed transfer station do not outweigh the negatives that the application presents in its current form. Also, I have attached the staff report that was emailed to us the other day with underlined comments from staff. What I did was comment in red font as to my thoughts on a number of these. Feel free to look over my comments, disregard them, whatever you choose. Hope the meeting tonight does not keep you there until late hours. Jen, please let me know tomorrow how it went and where we're headed from here. Thanks, Ken. He included a summary of Abdul's comments with no additional comments. He took my staff report. What I will do is, rather than reading my entire staff report into the record, I will read his comment per number, the red comment. So comment number 1 in my staff report, he adds, will we hear back from Corporation Counsel before we close and vote on this? Number 5, I am assuming that they are contending that what has been discussed by their experts at the hearing is their way of formally presenting this info. As you say, all of this should be part of what they submitted in their official documentation to staff. This is in reference to the operation plan. Number 6 references the storage areas in my staff report. Ken comments, someone on the Planning Commission should ask them about this tonight. Number 9A, which is in regards to Section 6C, additional industrial regulations. The first one is noise. I would concur that this information has been presented to the Commission at the public hearings. That being said, we should have on file something that formally represents the conclusion that was reached. Letter B, which talks about odors. Once again, I am sure that they are thinking that all of this information that was presented at the public hearings will suffice as their official response. 10A, which talks about landscape requirements. They will need to fix this. That's what Ken had recommended. And letter B, which has to do with the landscaping as well, he reflected the same type of comment. 11 is the grading comment. Has the applicant related how they are going to address this? 12A is retaining walls. Ken commented they need to be asked about this, preferably this evening. 13A, access. This talks about queuing capacity. Ken comments, I remember the applicant addressing this a number of times, stating that adequate on-site queuing would be available. 14C, 4. Are we aware if they are prepared to show us that this parking will be located? Where this parking will be located? 16D talks about sight lines. Abdul has commented on this for us. And his last comment refers to my additional comment 17, 18. Can someone on the commission please ask them about both these comments tonight? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, is there anyone here prepared to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Gregory J. Cava, attorney, 24 Bank Street in Milford, Connecticut, representing the applicants, MSW.
One question before you start, and that is, there have been some recently filed plans. Do you want to explain what those are, what changes were made?
Yes, that's exactly where I was going to start. I think it makes sense. The application has had a number of tweaks and modifications made to it in response to comments by staff and by the traffic engineer and others. And I think what we're going to do is try to have our team present what the current plans that are now filed show, and what the status of the application is and all the comments back and forth. Since those emails were sent, I don't know if we got those. I don't think we did. The emails you just read, Jennifer.
No.
Yeah, so we haven't, I don't know if we've addressed many of the items that were questioned in there, maybe addressed this evening. If not, we'd like to go back and make sure they all get addressed before the evening's over. Let me start with Mark Zesson, our civil engineer, to talk about the new set of plans and where we stand with those. I don't know if you want this over there. I'll make it easier.
Take it, I don't know.
Good evening. As Attorney Cava indicated, my name is Mark Zesson. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut.
Let me just add while he's adjusting the microphone that everyone will have an opportunity to view these when we take a break.
I'm employed by Anchor Engineering Services Incorporated in Danbury, Connecticut. We prepared the site plans. From the bird's eye view, for the most part, the site looks very similar, especially from a distance, but there's one key feature here, the addition of a second scale. The applicant has agreed to install a second scale to reduce the truck queue lengths, both inbound and outbound, as well as the time duration of queuing. The applicant has also agreed to install a fast pass system similar to those used on toll roads. Both of those are shown on the plans as well as documented in the operation plan that was submitted to the city. Secondly, we have submitted plans that show a turn lane off of Home Trees Road for trucks making a right-hand turn into the facility. In front of what is now Putnam Automotive, there would be a shoulder widening and turn lane for trucks to maneuver in and to access the site more easily. We've also, at the location I'm pointing to now, moved the curb and shown on the plan signs that will indicate no right turn out of the driveway. And then that curb, as shown on there, is intended to prohibit and discourage people from even attempting to make a right turn out of the driveway. What you can't tell from looking at the plan view, what you can tell from the grading plans that we have submitted, we had met with the city's traffic engineer, Mr. Muhammad, as well as people from the engineering office, agreed after that meeting to lessen the slope of the access driveway at Plumtrees Road for a distance of 100 feet, and also lessen the slope between the initial ramp in the scale to 8% to lower the correction factor or the additional stopping distance for trucks exiting the driveway, as well as to make it easier for trucks turning in and going up the driveway to the scale, for them to be able to get through that portion of the driveway easier. In response to comments from the planning staff, we have added a canopy of canvas not to exceed 24 feet in height over the brush pile in the trucks. So this one, except for the last area, which we now call out as paved area where snow can be stored, that's one of the later comments. The canopy could not be constructed any closer to the northerly property line due to building setback requirements. That was one of the issues that we had gone back and forth with, so to speak, with the planning staff. Mr. Grindle, the landscape architect for the project, who is also here, is available to discuss in detail if the commission would like, or if the staff would like, the landscaping plans. For now, I'll leave it to the technical comments from the landscaping. With respect to landscaping, have been addressed in a set of details and plans and additional plantings down in front. And more specific information as to not just the rate, but as actually defining what each of these trees will actually be. You can see if you get very close, or I can show you, there are call-outs as to not only how many of the trees, but what each tree will be. The original rate of plantings met the regulations, but we did not specify which tree is going where. Kevin also has a typical here with respect to what's going on in the buffer, and the applicant, planning staff has indicated on other projects, when you're talking about intermixing new plantings as a condition of the application being approved, the applicant would have the state licensed landscape architect meet with the planning staff, and they could put stakes in the field as the landscaping is being done, so that there's no doubt before the trees go in which trees are going where, especially in the area where we don't want to cut down trees to plant new trees. The next few changes to the project I will discuss relate to comments that we had received from the fire marshal. The second round of comments received from the fire marshal. The first round of comments we had previously addressed, which related to the types of fittings and size of fittings on the hydrants. The second round of comments were in more detail. The first of which is, in the interest of fire safety, we recommend that the proposed facility be fully sprinklered. This is the January 18th letter from the fire marshal and deputy fire marshal to Dennis Alpern. Despite the fact that it's not required by the building code, the applicant has agreed to install at his expense a dry type sprinkler system. After meeting with a dry sprinkler system is one that would function in cold temperatures so that there's not water in the lines. The building would be unheated. The water would come into the line if the sprinkler head is activated due to a pressure release valve would open and water would fill the lines. Fire marshal also asked that we contact the National Fire Sprinkler Association regarding specific sprinkler heads that may have been invented that would pop up out of the floor. We were somewhat skeptical, but nonetheless have contacted, since meeting with the fire marshal, the National Fire Sprinkler Association, and have agreed that if such a thing is recommended and it's practical to install under a floor that will have excavators and piles and machinery on top of it, the applicant would consider it, but certainly the same type of dry sprinkler systems employed in other industrial buildings, the applicant has agreed to install, and will continue to pursue this issue up to the time of a building permit and construction. Comment number 2, due to the potential heavy fire load, we recommend an additional hydrant be installed in the area's brush pile. We have shown many more feet of main, water line, and an additional hydrant at this location, as was discussed with the fire marshal, deputy fire marshal, and the fire chief. This brings me to one of the points that was brought up by the engineering department regarding easement. We have shown on the latest plans an easement. We recognize and acknowledge that the water main needs to be approved by the Common Council, as we previously had done. The comments from the engineering department today, dated today, which we received late today, indicate all of their comments have been satisfied. The easement is shown on this plan, sheet 3 of the plans that were submitted earlier this week. Same location as the water line, obviously. The applicant concurs with all the engineering department's comments, which basically are 2 left that can be resolved at a later date. One is that the 8 points of conditions, such as as-built maps and things like that by the Common Council, be incorporated. And there's no real choice, of course. He's agreeable to those. And the second that relates to the drainage, which due to the lowering of the driveway to the flatter grade, we did, and also due to earlier comments from engineering, we moved the subsurface drainage infiltration system to the lawn area of Putnam Automotive next door. It allows the, rather than the fire line being, or excuse me, the water line being snaked around the drainage, we moved the drainage onto the adjacent property. They've seen that and they agree with that. They've asked us to either confirm prior to construction the accessibility for inspection or put in an approved equal. The applicant is agreeable to put in an approved equal. They've reviewed our drainage computations. They're satisfied with the drainage computations. We're absolutely certain the amount of subsurface storage and infiltration can be provided there by one of numerous projects, products, and that access can be provided. And they're sure too, I would guess, perhaps the planning department has a memo, or I could get it and read it into the record, but nonetheless, we agree with everything in the engineering department's memo, and they're comfortable with that, we're comfortable with that, and we moved the water line, and it's better overall. Regarding grading and retaining walls, which the engineering department had previously commented on, as well as the planning department. As we indicated in the letter to the city, the applicant understands and agrees that all the work would be either done on this property or done, if the slope easement can be obtained for more conventional construction, that easement would be in place prior to any construction. As we've indicated, there are unconventional means which we've considered to build the walls. Some of the walls are obviously, now that this area is lower, the walls are higher. Due to some possible confusion, I would point out that the wall on the north side is in a fill condition and can easily be constructed on the applicant's property without going onto the city's property because it's in a fill, not in a cut. So the other walls, this wall is also in a fill. The neighbor being the applicant also controls. And there's also other work over here on the land that the applicant also controls. And all those easements would be in place. Mr. Putnam is here and he controls the property, and we discuss it further with him. But nonetheless, we've already told the engineering department that those plans would be subject to, or they told us, and we've agreed that they're subject to review by the building department prior to construction. We have to build pull a building permit for anything over 4 feet in the state anyways, and I think that will be done prior to construction. I know it will be done prior to construction. The last 2 comments from the, I bounced around because there was some overlap between the fire comments and the engineering comments with respect to the water line. The next one also relates to drainage from the fire marshal. Is the drainage system designed for this facility keep properly, can you contain any tainted runoff? Can the drainage system handle the load of water? The drainage system we had previously provided in an unsprinklered condition computations for what that fire flow would be. We've also supplied now to NFPA what the sprinklered condition flow would be. We also compared that in terms of CFS, and certainly the drainage systems on site are capable of handling much greater than the fire flows. We've also pointed out oil, water, and floatable separators are available on site due to the relocation of this subsurface system. We're now able to pick up even the last couple drainage systems, catch basins for those. And lastly, the applicant has agreed in the operation plan states that spill containment mats, booms, and oils collection devices will be available at the scale house and near the tip floor for use by the fire department or other responders. The next sets of comments are 4A, B, and C relating to turn radii. Those are all accommodated. We use the same vehicle with respect to other trucks on site. And we went over that with the deputy fire marshal and the fire chief. The 10% driveway, the fire chief indicated they can get there from here up the driveway, but they did not want to set their apparatus on those grades. It was pointed out to them, as well as to the deputy fire marshal and the fire marshal, that the grades in this area and in this area are less than 6%, which he had indicated, the chief had indicated, which was the percentage of slope that their apparatus could be set at. So they wouldn't see a need to set apparatus up on the driveway as allowed by regs. Basically, they have the flat areas up here near the scale on the back to set up their apparatus. It was our understanding, my understanding, and that of Mr. Putnam when we left the meeting with all the fire officials, that they were satisfied with his agreement to put in sprinklers, additional hydrants, and with the grading on the site. We have not seen a memo back from them, but I would characterize it that when we left, they were satisfied with what we said we'd do, and we have done that. We also provided some distances that they had asked for in a subsequent letter. The distances being the distance to Putnam Automotive, as well as the structures on the sewage treatment plant property and on the apartments. Getting back to the general changes to the plan, snow removal and winter maintenance are addressed in the operations plan that we have provided. Mr. Brown is here and available to discuss that. The runoff, as they indicated, pillows, booms, cover mats, and absorbent materials will be available on site. All the drainage, I think the engineering department has signed off on already, and we're very comfortable with it. So that summarizes it. The main feature to us being the additional scales and the turn lanes. I'm sure you'll hear from Mike Galante regarding traffic in general at some point. Unless there's any questions, that's what I think.
Are there any questions from the commission?
Yeah, you can leave that there for time being. Oh, are there any building?
Excuse me, Mr. Urias?
There was one change to the building plans. I'm sorry. You're right. In response to some interaction with the odor control specialist. The building footprint hasn't changed, but we have adjusted the locations of the doors.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Exhibit R.
Okay. Exhibit R.
You had seen this diagram, or a similar diagram before. What we have done is adjusted the locations of the 4 doors so that the odor control systems could be installed more effectively. And so basically, the two main bays to the north now have the 2 trucks lining up with those 2 bays respectively. The trucks used to be further spread, or the bays used to be further apart. These can easily be accommodated like this. The last bay is for sorted materials and outbound materials. It was never really intended to have much tipped in that bay to the far left. At this point, I may as well address one of the comments that Jennifer read into the record tonight in respect to what would we anticipate would happen if one of these trucks was to break down either inside or outside of the building. If it's for a short while before they can get it going, I would say leave it there. If it's for much longer than that, whether it's inside or outside, there'll be several very large excavators and loaders, at least one of each available. And I would say that Mr. Putnam's equipment could move the truck out of the way, either into the building, which is pretty much puts it out of the way to the other trucks going by, or by pushing it or pulling it forward towards the trailers and container storage or over by the brush pile. And after that, as soon as a record could be brought to the site, which I imagine Mr. Putnam would know how to get a record, that the truck could be moved.
Thank you, Mark.
Any other questions?
Yeah.